We're back here on the John Fourcade Show. One of our John Fourcade specials this week is the Ford year-end event. A 2017 Ford Fusion SE. You pay $24,895 or $21,395. You can't find a better deal than on right here at Vetch Ford on a 2017 Ford Fusion SE, $24,895 or $21,395. What a great deal right here at Veterans Ford. We're back here on the John Fourcade Show. Citrus Bowl, LSU gets an opportunity to go up against Louisville. All chips in. Coach O, I think, has been having them practice for 10 o'clock, getting ready for that time change, so to speak. And interesting football game because of the fact that, man, Lamar Jackson, he's accounted for 51 touchdowns this year, 3,300 yards passing, over 1,500 rushing yards, 10 a.m. Saturday. I do think the showcase here will be LSU in their big offensive line, pounding the rock with Darius Geis up against trying to keep this guy off the field in Lamar Jackson. John, he's had a phenomenal season. He's a taller, I think more accurate passer version of what we saw with Mike Vick years ago.
Well, the thing about him is that if he can get some containment by LSU's defense, which the speed of LSU's defense, I don't think Louisville has seen the speed LSU brings and presents. He's not going to run the ball much on the outside. It's where he gets his yardage. It's going to be the inside running game that you see. But can he take the pounding he's going to get by an SEC opponent? And I think the overall scenario is that if the defense of LSU can go up against this young man, who's been, like you had said earlier, a couple of weeks ago, jet setting around after winning the Heisman Trophy. His mind's not in there. They're in Disney World having fun in Orlando. And the big thing is, well, can LSU show up knowing that they just won the wing eating contest and over 4,000 pounds of wings or over 4,000 wings? I hope they're ready to play some football. LSU's scenario is they got one running back that's there to play, and I can't wait to see him play in this football game. I think LSU's ready, prepared to play. 10 o'clock kickoff. Both teams got to adjust to that. And I think with Ogeron's new job as the head coach and bringing some new guys in, we'll see what Canada can do. As a coach, they're going to let Emsming, I'm sure
Steve will call the plays.
Calling the plays. But I think this is a good prime example of watching what LSU and what they can get ready to prepare themselves for next year. I think LSU's offensive line will dominate the game.
I think that's where they have the big advantage. That big offensive line and Darius Geis going up against Louisville's defense. You look the last 3 games of the season, Louisville's defense is nothing to write home about. I think we'll have a different look. In some of the first practices I saw, Dave Aranda was using, I'm going to say 90% of the time, a 3-4 alignment. They were getting out of the 4-3, and he's made it public that that's what they will go to in this game. They're going to be a 3-4 team. Wade Phillips explained it to me best years ago. The difference between a 4-3 and a 3-4 is, on a 4-3, you know where that rusher's coming from. Normally from the left side up against right defensive end, left tackle. In a 3-4, you can move that second linebacker around. You're not sure where he's coming from. That's why I think he wants us to take full advantage of Arden Key.
Well, that's the big key. Arden Key is their specialist on the defensive side of the football. Once again, the 250, 260 style player, weight-wise, who can move around. You put your hands on the ground, you pretty much know where he's coming from. But once his hands off, like I said, inside, outside, right side, left side, you move the guys around. But it also helps, Mike, in the running department when you got your quarterbacks. Now you got 4 linebackers who are up and ready to determine where this guy's going to run at. If you got 4 down linemen, they necessarily can't see what the quarterback's basically doing from a running standpoint. You got 1 linebacker in the middle, 2 on the outside, and it's easier to run against a 4-3 defense than it is a 3-4 defense, and I think that's why you see him going to a 3-4 scheme against this rushing quarterback.
One of the things, and we'll finish it off here on LSU, Greg Gilmore is going to start inside in the middle, but watch Ed Alexander. He has gotten great reviews so far in his transition to inside. We're going to take a look at the championship series, the best of 4, and we look at it, Alabama going up against Washington. To me, after the first quarter, I think Alabama smokes Washington in this football game.
My hat goes off to Washington getting it. They deserve it for what they have done all year long. Unfortunately, they have to go play Alabama, and they're playing in where? The South. So 80% fans going to be for Alabama, the other 10% for Washington, and the other 10%, who cares? But Alabama, like you said, first quarter, they'll play around with them, and then it's all over with.
The intrigue game, Clemson, Ohio
Yes.
State. Both teams match up well. Both teams lost a lot to the NFL draft last year, but Clemson still got Deshaun Watson, and I think he's the difference maker on that football team. And Clemson's got something to prove. I think they've been an underachieving team all season long, but now they're still in the hunt, despite the fact I didn't think they played well for most of the year.
Well, they could have lost the ball. I know the North Carolina State game, it's flat out, you lost that ball
it.
game. And that coach for North Carolina State should be run out of town for the way he called those plays at the end of the game to kick the field goal. And the other games they were in that they won, and they could have easily lost. Now, I'll say this, Clemson's defense, I think, is a little bit better off than Ohio State's defense, but you were right about one thing. Having a guy named Watson back there who's got experience, who's been there before. Now, Ohio State's been there. 2 years ago, they were there, but it wasn't with this quarterback. It was a kid named Jones, Cardale Jones. So Ohio State's happy to be there. They backed in it a little bit differently than what Clemson did. Clemson won it outright, got in there. So it's going to be a good battle of the game, right, to see who battles these two teams and see how the battle comes out. Man, it could be a game where it could be a field goal, but I think Clemson edges and wins this one.
I think it's what you want to call an over game.
Well, it's going to be over. It's going to be a lot of points scored
in here.
Man, that's the way it is with these guys. These two teams don't really don't want to play defense. They want to see who can outscore each other. But if I had to pick a defense, I think Clemson got a little bit better defense than Ohio State.
I think a tad better. One of the things, too, is we're looking at the Sugar Bowl, Auburn and Oklahoma. I was telling you this, if Bob Stoops lose this game, you think he's taking some heat. I look at Auburn, a really good defensive football team, but offensively, they have been offensive for most of the season. They just haven't been able to find anything that they can grab onto. Got a little bit of a running game going. Baker Mayfield, though, almost 3,700 passing yards, 38 touchdowns. We'll talk a little bit about Dede Westbrook a little bit later in the program, but Auburn, almost 2,000 yards rushing, 18 touchdowns between Petaway and Johnson. But I look at this game, man, if Oklahoma is focused, they win this game and win it big over Auburn.
That's the whole key. I thought this was a mismatch from the get-go. I didn't think Auburn deserved to be in the Sugar Bowl. Should have never been in the Super Bowl. LSU would have been a better opponent in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma than Auburn. Auburn just has no quarterback, Mike. You know as well as I do. They've been, ringing around the rosy with quarterbacks in there all year long, trying 3 quarterbacks, trying all. They tried too much comical playground offensive stuff, and I think that's what killed them early in the season. They need to go in balance and find a quarterback, but it's too late to find one now. You got what you got to go into this football game. Oklahoma should walk in there, and Oklahoma was one of the hottest teams playing at the end of the season. Remember, they were looking at possibly maybe being a team that could get to that 4th seed to get in the playoffs. It didn't happen for them, but they're one of the hottest teams. I'll say this much. Oklahoma comes in here, it will not be a close ball game.
One of the things an old Oklahoma coach, Barry Switzer, told me, and I've believed it, the team you see in late November, you never see again in January or late December. Either you get better or you get worse. For Oklahoma, if they get worse, Auburn could steal this game. I don't see it happening, but certainly it's an interesting game to watch because all the pressure is certainly on the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll be back with more of the John Fourcade Show, sponsored each week by Veterans Force.